up, you guys? This is Rob from Guy Plays, and today on The Snapshot, we're getting ourselves some lever action when we take a look at the Sybaris Prime. Now, as with all Prime weapons, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to their relics and all of that good stuff in the description box below, just because, you know, things get vaulted, things get shifted around, so it's better to kind of cover all of my bases there, because you know I ain't gonna stay on top of it, y'all know that. Alrighty, so I actually wanted to jump into comparative playtesting fairly quickly, mainly because of the fact that I know that some of y'all want to leave some comments before the video's even over, and I'm like, hold on, let me show you how it works first before you decide on how good it is. But let's go ahead and take a look at the comparisons real quick. So as you can see, it does suffer a little bit of an accuracy loss as opposed to the deck Sybaris. It also took a hit to its critical chance, but 5% in trade for 15% in status chance, and that's actually pretty major when we take a look at the build. Its reload speed is also a little bit longer, going from 1.5 up to 2. However, it does have a faster fire rate, a larger magazine, and its base damage is actually increased from 75.1 to 87.9. Now, do note one thing, it has had its IPS shifted a little bit. So with the deck Sybaris, it's actually had a little bit more into slash as opposed to the Sybaris Prime, which is pretty balanced throughout, with only tiny little smidgens of a 0.9 into its slash this time. Alrighty, as some of you know, I do have a ribbon for the deck Sybaris. However, we are going to forego that, and I'm just tossing on an Argon Scope in its place. I hope that's okay. It's gonna have to be, because that's what we're working with right now. So as you can see, I do have the deck Sybaris equipped, and I want to go ahead and show you how it performs against one of our Billies. So let's go ahead and load up a level 150 Billy. Ooh, look at that, mastery rank 24 in action. And I wanted to go ahead and show you exactly, because right now I know that there are a lot of people that are talking about, oh, it lost about, because I believe it lost a little bit over 11% to its critical chance. And I know some people are kind of bitter over that, and I'm like, it got a shit ton of status chance to make up for it. And as you can see right now, I'm clicking as fast as I can. I don't know if the mic is picking it up, but I am clicking as fast as I can to try to kind of wear down this bombard, and it is having a little bit of trouble. But the biggest thing that I want to kind of point out is how much ammo it's consumed. So right now we are looking at 494. Alright, so we're looking at 494 straight out of the gate. That's how much ammo it took out of 540. So 494. That's what we're looking at right now. Let's go ahead and toss on the decks, or the Sybaris Prime. And again, as you can see, we are going to be using the same build. Nothing crazy. This is the exact same shit we're doing. But the one big thing that I did want to point out, so we did get a little bit of a loss to its critical chance. However, if you look at its status using the same build, it goes from like the 30% up to 78.1, which is pretty freaking massive. So let's go ahead and drag Billy out. I'm sorry, Billy, we love you, but I'm gonna have to kill you. So as you can see, we are sitting at 540 again. We'll do the turnaround shot, kind of like we did last time. And even though, and this is what I always say about corrosive, you know, corrosive, it always looks like it's not doing anything at first. However, once you get through that, we are looking at 522 instead of 494. So you can definitely see a big improvement in its performance just per shot, and the fact is it does have a faster fire rate, so it is able to eat through the enemies a little bit quicker. Now, I do want to kind of give a little bit of a heads up, because I know that people are going to ask about it. I like corrosive on the Sybaris Prime, but I know that because the deck Sybaris does have a good chunk of slashing in it, that some people are going to be like, well, Rob, you should go ahead and test this with a viral build. And I did actually test it with the viral build, and I'm gonna say right now, it's really a roll of the dice, because we've got 37.6%. So literally, the Sybaris Prime has a 40 point lead in status chance on this thing. All right, and sometimes it's hit and miss. It's hit and miss. We don't know, so we're gonna get one shot to turn them around. And if we can get viral on there, and we can get the rights, and we can get the right statuses, as you can see, because of the fact that we're not able to consistently proc viral, sometimes it does take a little bit longer, and we kind of just have to cross our fingers that it goes off. So we are actually sitting at 498 plus 12, so at 500. So you can already tell that even with the Viro build, the Sybaris Prime still does outperform it. And I'm going to be honest, that was actually a pretty good run for the deck Sybaris, because there have been times where the viral just does not proc as regularly. We get the slash procs, we get a ton of the slash procs, which is fantastic, but the viral doesn't always stay on there as consistently as it did in those runs. So I'm just, you know, there were no cuts in the video. You could just see it straight out of the gate and you know like what the realness is, okay? Now, for those of you who don't know, the Sybaris is a highly accurate lever action rifle that fires off 2 rounds at once. Its prime variant has both a substantial status chance, critical chance, and critical multiplier, making it capable of both stripping down or bypassing enemy defenses using status procs, as well as delivering heavy damage with its intense critical strikes and headshots. And while it does suffer some trade-offs from its dex version, with a point blank and 2 status elemental mods, you'll find yourself sitting at 75 or over on both supplementals, giving this better scalability than its anniversary variant. So all in all, I am a big fan of the Sybaris Prime. First and foremost, it looks absolutely gorgeous. All of the metalwork on it is fucking fantastic. Seriously, it is some of my favorite that is currently in game. But at the same point, they also managed to kind of keep the identity of the Sybaris, you know, both in its shape and in the way that it performs. However, they managed to integrate another feature into it, which I was kind of like, how are they going to integrate status into a semi-automatic weapon? However, by increasing the magazine size and the fire rate, this thing actually applies status pretty gosh darn quickly. In fact, this kind of almost reminds me of the Axe Stiletto days, the Axe Stiletto Prime days, where they bumped up the status chance, and I was like, I'm kind of confused, like, how is this supposed to work? But what ended up happening with the Axe Stiletto Prime is it was actually able to shred through armor and still deliver a nice hefty critical punch, and that's exactly kind of like the feeling that they captured here with the Sybaris Prime. So that pretty much does it for the facts and figures. If you guys want to stick around, I'm going to slap on that ribbon and let's get to a little bit of gameplay. Alright, can we talk about how absolutely gorgeous this weapon looks and feels? I know that Quiet had posted something a little bit earlier today to kind of like help reduce some of the weird recoil, so I'm like, ooh, feels even sexier now, because even back then I know that she didn't like the recoil straight out of the gate. However, I was still feeling like it was pretty sexy then. And the cool thing about like the Sybaris, okay, let's be real. Sybaris Prime was always gonna look gorgeous. The Sybaris was such a gorgeous weapon straight out of the gate anyway that there's no way that it could have been an ugly Prime, right? Right? Nobody ever questioned that. But it just feels so, it feels so good, and it feels so kind of like true to itself. It's like this is like what happens, you know, when you clean yourself up, you get a haircut, you actually shave your face unlike I did, you know, you get a good night's rest, and you know, you take care of your skin, and like all of a sudden you're like glowing and shit. That's exactly what like the Sybaris, oh, don't die. Damn it. Oh, who are all these friends? And all of a sudden we have all of these friends. Did anybody mention this? No, didn't mention this to me. Look at that. If you could have let me know, maybe I could have done something about it, you jerk. Well, let's go ahead and take care of that real fast. Sorry, getting a little bit emotional here. But no, the Sybaris Prime really feels like just the Sybaris at its best. And the thing is, I really kind of like appreciated the small touches, because I think that anybody else who just thought, ooh, it's just a faster fire rate, almost feels like it's a faster fire rate just for the sake of having a faster fire rate. But I almost think that it's a little bit more thoughtful than that, when, you know, because that's the big thing, is when you increase status chance, you really want to make sure that you can apply it. And typically, semi-automatic weapons are usually not fast enough to apply it, so what ends up happening is, you know, you don't get the benefit, you know, because if you're going to be there stripping a shit ton of armor, or let's say applying static, or applying something like viral, you want to be able to shoot the enemies fairly fucking quickly, because of the fact that you want to apply that status, right? So take something like corrosive, right? If you have a slow fire rate on something that has corrosive on it, it feels kind of pointless because of the fact that you don't get to strip off enough armor for it to kind of make a difference. So it's something as subtle as kind of like saying, oh yeah, we toss a little extra fire rate on it so that it can apply status even better. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I know that some people straight out of the gate were a little bit like, oh, it lost crit chance, it makes it suck. but literally like 10% crit chance, I think, once you hit the 75% mark, yeah, it's really not all that much to complain about. I'm like, yeah, I know it hurts those people that are really into getting red crits, but admittedly, admittedly, it really doesn't feel like it's changed that much on this weapon at all. And I know that there are going to be some people that like don't argue it, that are going to argue against that, but the thing about it is, the way that I always have seen it is that crit looks very good on paper, and it is very good. Crit is an awesome stat. However, status is something that's a little bit harder to measure, and so part of me is kind of like, yeah, sure, it might have lost out on some of the crits, so on paper it's not gonna look as good, but depending on what you're going up against, and as long as you're using the right like elemental combos and all of that kind of stuff to kind of facilitate the fact that it uses status, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, even though you can't, that's exactly why I kind of had to measure it by a bullet per bullet basis, is I wanted to make sure, I have 6 of them. Let's just take that. That's why I really wanted to measure its efficacy on like a bullet per bullet basis, mainly because of the fact that it goes to show that status lessens the amount of bullets it takes to kill an enemy, meaning that you technically will be able to kill that enemy faster. And for status, it's all about time to kill as opposed to the big numbers that you see on paper. And that's why I think that a lot of people had that kind of initial reaction of, oh, it lost critical chance, it must be like a shittier side grade. But no, I actually think it performs absolutely amazingly. But you know what? Let me know. No, don't let me know. I already know. I don't need you to let me know how great this weapon is. This is a fucking fantastic weapon. You don't like this weapon, you can suck my toe. But yeah, let me know what you think about its model. How about that? You can tell me what you think about its model. Do you think it's a sexy piece of work? Do you think that Shy would be happy? But that pretty much brings this episode to an end. So as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch yo lever. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!